Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show here on 1130 The Tiger, and we're pleased to welcome in the man, the myth, the legend. You may know him as Gator. We now know him as Chris. Chris James from beautiful Canada, who called us his Gator. Chris, how are you, man?
Oh, I'm great. Sorry I called in early. I thought you were in Eastern Standard Time. That was the reason. So when you said 4, I thought it was 1. But I apologize for that.
No problem, brother. We love hearing from you at any point in time. Let me back up for just a moment to kind of fill folks in that don't know. A couple of years ago, we got a call from, at that time, a guy named Roy, who told us that he was.
Did I say Roy first?
You did.
I say
the very first one you did? You said Roy, and then you said you were a tailgater and that you like to drink and have a good time and go to sporting events, and then about every other month or so, every few weeks, we would hear again from our buddy Gator. Now. What you didn't know, Chris, is that we always fast forward a little bit. So come to find out, a couple weeks ago, Chris calls us and says, "By the way, I'm Gator. I host a prank call stream on YouTube, which, come to find out, has tens of thousands of followers and gets great views every video, and that unknowingly we have been clipped into his prank call show." And it's hilarious stuff. Now, he's been calling a lot of political radio. He calls some sports talk guys as well. But we've kind of just known him as Gator. Well, unbeknownst to you, Chris, and maybe you know this now, we thought we were being pranked by someone in our building because.
Well, I heard you. I heard you saying that.
Yeah, so your voice is very similar in kind of pitch and tone to a guy that we work with. Now, he doesn't have that same sort of Canadian accent to it, but I thought, well, this guy's kind of putting us on. And but now, that having said that, he's not really a dude that has that kind of motivation. He's not one that's going to pick up the phone and prank call us. But I sent Rogers out during your second call to go see if he was calling us. And Rogers goes, no, he's outside smoking a cigarette, not on the phone. And so now we don't know who it is, and more importantly, we don't know why.
Yeah.
And that was my major thing, right? Was why is this guy, why? Because we knew something was going on. We knew it was someone having some fun with us, but we didn't know why.
Yeah. Now if I can say that is one. Okay. So to give everyone a little insight into how I operate. So I call the majority of my calls are to, nasty radio hosts of Fox News type people, right. Really, really far right, conservative people, generally, not always conservative, but just generally nasty people. But I also have characters such as Gator, and I have one named Butch, who's a really dumb guy, and I have Tech Head Terry, who's a guy who only ever calls and wants to talk about the tech, and Officer Steve, who's a police officer who calls these conservatives and fights with them as a police officer. But yeah, the Gator character was only meant to give me a way to call. And initially, early on, I just saw there's so much sports radio, and so when I was looking through radio shows, I was seeing so many sports radio shows, and I thought I got to get a character together to call these shows. So I've called a couple other shows as Gator, the DA show, Damon Amina. I forget. Yeah. I don't know how to say his last name.
Amendolara or whatever his name is. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first guy I called, and I've called a few other, Fox Sports shows and stuff like that. But the reason that I enjoyed calling you so much is because it was clear right away that you knew that something was going on.
Right.
You're not falling for it. You're not believing that Gator is a real human being who's, actually an alcoholic or whatever, has all these drinking problems, but you played along with it and you had fun with it, and you are just a genuinely fun and nice guy. And so what I try to do on my channel is have that mixed in, because it is, it's a pretty rough watch sometimes when you got, Ben Shapiro, Rudy Giuliani. So I try to sprinkle that in, and people just loved you. They loved the way that you interact with Gator, and I just had fun. I just had fun calling you and pretending to be this drunk guy. You know?
And that's the thing. Again, we knew something was going on. We just didn't know what was going on. And once we realized it wasn't our buddy Puff in the building, we're like, okay, well, who's this random person? So my overwhelming number one question is, how the hell did you find my show in Shreveport, Louisiana from Canada?
Okay, so that's a good question.
Thank you.
So
I thought so too.
It's pretty straightforward in the sense that I use the search function on Facebook video live videos, and I search for the word show, and I look at every video that is live. I do the same on YouTube, and I spend time, actually going through shows and trying to see if there's anything worth calling. And you had your number on the screen, and I called in, and at that point, I don't think maybe Rogers screened the calls. Yeah. I don't know if he did. I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
But he just put me on the air. Do you know what I mean? He didn't sometimes I'll call a show and it's like, oh, we got to make sure you're exactly on the topic, and you have to listen to the whole thing and so I knew that I could call and Rogers would put me on the air.
Absolutely.
And that was just a godsend for me because I am creating content. So especially nowadays, it feels very easy for me to do it. I have so many different shows. I have a whole group of people who do the calls for me. But at that time, especially early on, it was hard for me to fill my episodes out. So having somebody like you where I could call as this character, I knew I would be able to talk to you. I knew it would be good content because I knew you would be entertaining. I knew the back and forth would be entertaining. It was a godsend for me. But yeah, just literally found it on Facebook, randomly searching for the word show. That's how I found it.
That's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, and that's the thing. Number one, we don't get a ton of calls. Most of our interaction is text message now. A lot of people don't call, especially this time. 3 to 5 is kind of an awkward time to try to get people to call. Yeah. Folks are not usually on their drive to or from work at this point. So you don't get a lot of calls. So typically Rogers is gonna screen the call and gonna just write it on the board and go. He's not trying to well, what do you want to talk about? Well, tell me exactly what you want to say. That's what, as you mentioned, that's what national call screeners have to do. They have to really screen your calls to make sure that folks don't get through that aren't supposed to be getting through. We're not that. We just kind of, if you want to call, chances are we'll put you on the air. And so so we had fun with it. I'm curious, how long have you been doing this? When did you start this?
About 3. I'm a stand-up comedian, first off, just to say. That's my background is as a stand-up comedian in Canada here, so that's how I made my living before I ever did the channel. And I guess probably 3.5 or 4 years ago, and you'll like this because, I know that you're a sports fan. The first person I ever called, I don't know if you went all the way back, but the way that I got into it was calling Curt Schilling, famous baseball.
We know who Curt Schilling is. Yeah.
Yeah, so interestingly, I'm a huge sports fan. I grew up playing baseball. I played soccer. I played football. I played basketball. I follow it all. Super. Basketball, I'm hugely into the NBA. Football, a little less. I used to have season tickets to the CFL team. By the way, just aside, do you know anything about the CFL?
We had a CFL team, 1994, 95. The Shreveport Pirates existed.
Of course, that was when the Canadian Football League went into America for some reason. It was
Birmingham, and Memphis, Las Vegas, Sacramento, Baltimore, Shreveport, all of those markets.
Yeah, the reason that I remember Baltimore so well is because they had the name the Baltimore Colts originally, and then I guess they ran into some issues with the Indianapolis Colts, and they had to change their name, and the name that they changed it to, I don't know if you remember this, Patrick. No, the Baltimore CFLers was their name for half a season.
That was later. That was after Shreveport had gotten out of the leagues. We only lasted 2 years here. Turns out we had some shady ownership from Detroit who came down here and kind of screwed everyone around. But I was a huge Shreveport Pirates fan. As a matter of fact, the show that's on after ours, Sports Talk with JJ and Bonsai Ben, who's not on Facebook Live, they're only on radio. They were actually the radio crew for the Shreveport Pirates back in 94, 95. So
that's amazing. So they would know my BC Lions. And my BC Lions, that's my hometown. I live right down the street. I can look out my window. I can see the old BC Place Stadium there. I used to go there with my dad We had season tickets for 12 years. But anyway, so my dad and my dad also a big sports fan. He loved Curt Schilling. We loved Curt Schilling. You know, we grew up, the bloody sock and everything, and I loved him in Philly. Obviously, he's a Hall of Fame level pitcher. He'll never get in for good reason, but he's a Hall of Fame level pitcher. Mm-hmm. And so I all of a sudden noticed him coming up on, somebody posted a thing of his, and it was him doing a Breitbart radio show on Periscope. And that was the first. I had no idea that he had become this, you know, sort of extreme right wing guy. But that's what led me into it. So I just started calling his show, and bothering him. And then it led into other shows where I just decided, hey, let's try some other shows. And then actually how I picked shows after that was I called and I said, do you like Curt Schilling? And if they said yes, then I would prank them. And if they said no, then I would leave them alone. And then it just sort of built off of that, where I started, this show is on this network with this show. And then I started realizing that, you know, on YouTube and Facebook, there are, you know, just, and when I say an infinite amount, I genuinely mean it. I always worry that I'm going to run out of shows to call, but it never happens, Patrick.
There's always somebody. By the way, I have been a very poor host of this show, and I haven't even mentioned the name of your YouTube channel is Not Even a Show. If you want to go subscribe to it, hit up YouTube, go search for Not Even a Show, and subscribe to it. I will tell you this, once you called and we had the confession, you all of a sudden I start telling the folks around the station, and our guys that are in my crew that run with me are all kinds of fired up. Like, we all just started doing deep dives on your show basically that night, and found all kind of fun stuff. And the most amusing aspect of it to me is, as I watch your interactions with me, or Gator's interactions with me, when I watch them in the context of your videos, there are so many things that you said or did during the course of those that make sense now. That didn't really. There was one point where you'd called up and Gator was talking about how he's been banned from stores because he licked everything on the shelves. And he said, I've even been banned from the liquor store. And I said, well, basically, based on what you've told me, every store you go to is a liquor store. And you immediately start laughing and go, they're going to love that. I've got to go. And I'm like, I don't know what they're going to love that. Like, what the hell are you talking about? And it turns out you meant your audience is going to love that. And that's that to me is it's fun, man. It's hilarious and sort of remarkable that in this day and age of the internet, that you can have your own little slice, little corner of the world, and be putting people on there, and literally they, or I in this case, have no idea it's happening. That's just, to me, that's remarkable.
It is, and I do definitely, like, I think about it sometimes, because and it's actually why I created the rating system. I have rating systems for hosts, and it is because I think about that I am putting people on. They don't realize. So someone like you, who's just a nice guy who's running a radio show, I'm putting you on my channel alongside all of these really horrible people. And so early on, I got people saying, "Hey, what's wrong with this host? Why are you calling him?" And it sort of dawned on me that people assume anyone I'm calling is really bad. Right. And so I created a rating system to say, hey, this is a green rated host. This is a good host. This is someone we like, just to tell the audience that. But I definitely, I think about it a little bit more when I'm doing it to people like you that I like. And that's why in the end, generally with people like you, I always tend to come clean when I feel like it's run its course. Yeah. And I want to reach out to you and let you know, because there is this little thing where I know that you wouldn't care, but I am still putting you on this channel and you have no idea. But I mean, I live off of that too with the hosts. I mean, I do a cold open segment for every episode where I call up and say, hey, you're in the cold open right now. I need you to say, let's start the show so we can do it. And I am feeding off the fact that they are confused. Right. That is the whole idea. And a lot of my channel has to do with that. I am making references to things that you have no idea about, but in context of what we're doing, they make sense. So I do, like, as the Tech Head Terry character, I will say to the host, I'll say, and the song will play now. Yeah. And they have no idea. They're confounded. They have absolutely no idea.
You did that to me. You called in once and you said, by the way, I have my own theme song and it's playing right now. Like literally,
Yeah.
I'm playing it right now. And of course, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And you said the lyrics are like, I'm a mother bleeping tailgater.
Yeah.
Do. And then you're like, and it's playing right now. And my only response was, well, that sounds like a song. Like, I don't know what to say to that at that point. And in retrospect, when you go back and watch it, it's hilarious. Like, it's
because
really
it
fun.
plays when I say it. Yeah,
exactly.
when I say it, it plays.
Yeah.
And so I know that in my head, and I've gotten better with that, where I'm sort of like, I've been doing it for a few years now, so I have this understanding of what the final product is going to look like. And so while I'm on the calls, I can kind of feed into it as well. And yeah, the Gator song, I have little stingers for everyone. And that Gator stinger is one of the most popular ones. People love it. It's all about, he says he doesn't know the rules. He doesn't know the score. I think there's actually two versions of the song. One of them talks about how he says he could bat 300 in, I don't know. It's a really popular song that people like quite a bit.
Well, I will tell you this, Rogers Hampton, who I have always said has musical Tourette's, in that he will repeat small snippets of songs over and over and over again. He'll get a song in his head and he'll just keep like, you literally will just be sitting here and next thing you know, you hear Rogers go, "It's Ben" from Bare Naked Ladies, right? It's out of nowhere. Well, he has been literally singing, "He's a bleeping tailgater," like just repeatedly for the last 2 days since I told him we were going to have you on.
I mean, can I say something? I want to say that is, I do that. If you ask my girlfriend, I'm being around my house is exactly like that. I sing songs to my cat. I sing songs constantly. I'm always doing that. I really feel like, I mean, Rogers and I are really two peas in a pod. I genuinely mean that. Of course, it is an absolute pleasure talking to you, and that's the main event. But I know every time I call as well, I'm going to have a little conversation with Rogers.
Yep.
And man, is it ever nice, honestly. And he's just got such a pause. Are you listening right now, Rogers? Can you hear me?
Of course he is.
Yeah, brother, I got you, Chris, man. Don't make me tear up now.
No, honestly, with all the bad people I talk to, I said this to Patrick before, with all the bad people I talk to all day long, it really, really shines a light when I talk to genuine, kind, nice people like you, and it really is a pleasure, my friend. Just hearing your smile, I can hear your smile through the phone,
well,
Rogers,
cackles.
if that makes sense.
No, buddy, I appreciate that. And for two people like me and you that we've only spoken a few times, for you to pick up on that, I appreciate that, because in this day and age that we live in, one of the things I pride myself is I try to be a little nicer, because you're probably going to get 10 calls in a day that just want to crap on your head. I hope I'm that one guy that when you hang up, you go, you know what, that just made my day and it just saved my attitude.
You got it, man. You're doing it. You guys got a good thing going on over there.
Well,
I love it.
Here's
And
the thing,
Chris.
I'll say this, Chris. You can now join the club of people who randomly call in during the show just to chat with Rogers and not actually go on the air. There's a whole club of people who will call Rogers up randomly and just talk to him, and he'll be, because we're in the same studio. We don't have separate studios for me and him. And he will literally rotate around and curl up against the wall with the phone up to his ear, and he'll just have a whole conversation with someone while we're on the air. So
that's not surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not surprising to me because, he just is a good guy to talk to. For real, like, I could see that if it's like, oh, I'm kind of having a bad day today or whatever, I'm feeling a little bit down, like, I could just call up Rogers and just say, "Hey, Rogers, how's it going?" And just hearing his voice is going to cheer me up.
Man, I appreciate that, Chris. That makes me feel good.
It's a human laugh track, brother. That's who he is. That's who he is.
Yeah.
And believe me, I know you said big CFL fan. My whole life, I've been a big CFL fan. My dad actually played for the Montreal Alouettes in the late 50s.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is one, my greatest ever sports memory, and it won't mean too much to people who aren't CFL fans, but I had my season tickets with my dad, and that's a big thing. My dad and I, when I was a grown-up, we didn't have a lot of stuff we did together, those were the times we got to see each other and talk, and one year, I remember it so well. The BC Lions started the season 1-6. You play 18 games in a season. They started the season 1-6, and I remember walking away from the stadium with my dad, and we both shook our head at each other. We said, it's going to be a long year. And I'll tell you what, after that, they won 11 straight games to finish the season 12-6, won the Western Conference Finals, and they were hosting the Grey Cup at home. I went there live, and I watched them win the Grey Cup with my dad after starting the season 1-6, and I will never forget that. And that's why sports is incredible.
Yeah.
Sports has moments that you will never, ever forget. And I'll just say this. I'm not going to take up too much. I think I'll probably have to get running here, but I want to say that, like, one thing I've noticed is how important sports are to me in terms of blowing off a little bit of steam.
Sure.
And I don't know if you guys have noticed that, and I don't mean drinking. I'm not doing the Gator thing. I'm saying yelling and screaming and getting out to the state. You know, I had season tickets to the MLS team, our soccer team here, the Whitecaps, and getting out to the games and yelling at the ref.
Yeah.
You know, I used to think, what kind of person is yelling at these people for? You know what I mean? Like, but I realized it's a confined. It's a situation where it's safe. You can go there. You're not, as long as you're not making threats to the ref, you're just screaming at him. No one's really getting hurt by it. You're getting a little bit of that, you're getting some of that off.
Catharsis.
And it makes, yeah, exactly. And I've really genuinely realized how much I miss that. And I've found myself at home watching sports and getting as into sports as I have, at the stadium. I've found myself pretending like I'm at the stadium. But it's really sunk in how much sports, how important it is in my life in a real genuine way.
And that's why we're hoping now that the vaccines are rolling out and Louisiana's about to open it up to everyone. We're hoping that come fall when football's back in and basketball in the winter, that we can have packed stadiums again and packed arenas and get that feel, because we're watching the NCAA tournament, which is, March Madness, one of the biggest things in the world. And it's just not, it's cool to see the upsets, but it's not quite the same when there's 1,500 people in there as opposed to 15,000 people in there. So we're looking forward to it.
There's certain sporting events, I'll say, certain ones don't seem to suffer too much, and it's like you can watch it and it doesn't take away. But things like that, you think about the NCAA tournament, you think about the excitement of the fans and how much they feed off of that, and it really is missing. Yeah, and you guys, I'll tell you what, up in Canada, we're having real trouble with the vaccine rollout, especially where I am. So we're not even anywhere near it, but I am obviously happy to hear down south that's happening. Obviously, a lot of the sports I watch is down there as well. And a lot of my friends and people I care about are down there. So very, very happy to hear it. And honestly, what a pleasure it was talking to you, Patrick. Maybe I'll call up and just talk to Rogers every now and then. Now that I know
I'm telling you, brother, join the club of people who just call to talk to Rogers about their day and their family and everything. He will take a call. He'll then hang the call up. And I'll go, is anything I need to know? He's like, no, just Jim calling to tell me about some stuff. I was like, okay, well, all right, don't mind the radio show that's going on over here. Hey,
I love it. I do a call-in show sometimes too on my Twitch channel. So I used to do it very regularly, but I'll have to send you guys a message. It would be really cool to have you guys maybe call in, and I could sort of ask you guys some questions, and you could talk to my audience a little bit as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, the only twitching Rogers ever does is when he doesn't get Budweiser in fast enough when he gets home.
Hey, Chris, another thing that you and I have in common is listening to you tell the story about your dad. My father, when he was with us, he was my best friend, my mentor, my everything. So you and I have another connection right there, is a relationship with their parent.
That's lovely, Rogers. Well, hey, you guys have a great day.
Right,
it was
brother.
a wonderful time talking to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, call anytime you want,
Peace out,
Chris.
Chris. Yeah, you're welcome anytime, brother.
Chris James, comedian, prank caller. Not Even a Show is the name of his YouTube stream, if you would like to follow along there.